The envelope had stayed sealed for 40 years, until Marion Koch finally broke down sobbing in her kitchen. Her granddaughter found her clutching hospital records from August 16, 1977, her whole body shaking with a secret she swore she would take to her grave. Those papers proved Elvis Presley was somewhere he should not have been the night before he died. What he whispered to Marion in those final hours destroyed everything the world believed about his death. She was the last medical professional to hear his voice, and what she heard was not a goodbye, it was a warning. Marion Koch was 23 years old when she learned that some patients arrive at hospitals to live, and others arrive to negotiate with death. Baptist Memorial Hospital in Memphis had seen both kinds, but on the night of August 15, 1977, she encountered something different, a man arriving to hide from the people trying to save him. The private entrance stayed locked most nights. Hospital staff called it the Celebrity Wing, though that was not its official name. Politicians used it, wealthy families used it, and Elvis Presley used it more than anyone wanted to admit. But that night felt wrong from the moment the service elevator opened. No crowd of bodyguards emerged, no cluster of anxious friends, just Dr. George Nishapoulos, his medical bag trembling in his grip, and Red West, whose eyes swept the hallway like a man checking for witnesses. Between them, Elvis Presley moved like someone had drained the life from his body but forgotten to let him die. Marion had seen him 6 times before in this same hidden wing, each visit logged as exhaustion, each discharge papers signed with aliases, but exhaustion does not make a 42-year-old man look like he aged 20 years in 3 months. Exhaustion does not put that particular shadow behind the eyes, the one that comes when the body keeps breathing, but the soul has already started leaving. His face carried no color except the gray that comes with prolonged oxygen deprivation. Every step required concentration, as if walking had become something he had to remember how to do. When he finally looked up and caught Marion watching, he tried to smile, that famous Elvis smile that made millions scream. Instead, his lips barely moved, and what came out was an apology. "Sorry you have to see me like this, darling." Those 7 words hit Marion harder than any medical emergency she had handled. The king of rock and roll was apologizing to a night nurse for existing in his own collapsing body. Dr. Nick guided him to the prepared room while Red West positioned himself outside like a sentinel. Marion followed, her training taking over while her mind raced with questions. The chart Dr. Nick handed her was almost empty. No admission forms, no insurance paperwork, no official record that Elvis Presley had entered Baptist Memorial Hospital at 11:47 p.m. "Keep this off the logs," Dr. Nick said quietly, his voice carrying an exhaustion that matched his patience. "Standard protocol for Mr. Burroughs." John Burroughs, the alias Elvis used for his hospital visits, but Marion had never seen Dr. Nick's hands shake while writing medication orders. She had never seen him avoid eye contact while explaining treatment, and she had never heard him sound defeated before starting. The examination revealed what the world would not learn for decades. Fresh injection sites covered both arms, some overlapping, some clearly administered by unsteady hands, bruising that suggested someone had been desperately trying to find veins. His blood pressure read dangerously low, then spiked, then dropped again, a cardiovascular system in chaos. But the physical symptoms were just the surface. Underneath lay something that made Marion understand why this visit was different. Elvis was conscious, alert, and completely aware that his body was failing. Most patients in his condition drift in and out of awareness. Elvis stayed present, watched everything, absorbed each word exchanged between Dr. Nick and the consulting physician they called in secretly. Around 1 in the morning, Dr. Nick stepped out to make phone calls. Marion adjusted Elvis's IV, checked his vitals, performed the routine tasks that kept her hands busy while her mind processed what she was witnessing. That was when Elvis spoke again, his voice stronger than his body should have allowed. "You know what they say about me out there." Marion hesitated, then answered honestly, "that you are getting ready for a new tour." A laugh escaped him, bitter, hollow, nothing like the warm laughter the world knew. "Getting ready, that is one way to put it." His eyes fixed on the ceiling, but Marion could tell he was seeing something beyond the white tiles. They got me scheduled for Portland in 3 days. 3 days. Can barely stand up long enough to use the bathroom, but sure, let me go sing for 20,000 people. The bitterness in his voice shifted to something else, fear mixed with resignation. You want to know a secret, honey? The kind that would make those tabloids explode. Marion said nothing, sensing he needed to talk more than he needed an answer. I tried to quit 2 weeks ago, told them all, Parker, the boys, everyone, said I needed time to get healthy, to get clean, to remember who I was before all this. His hand gestured weakly at his deteriorating body. You know what Parker said? That I owed too much money, that canceling the tour would bankrupt me, that Lisa Marie would have nothing. His voice cracked on his daughter's name. So here I am, getting patched up enough to stumble through another show, another pill to wake up, another to perform, another to come down, another to sleep, except the sleeping ones stopped working months ago, and the waking ones, he trailed off, eyes closing, they are not even sure what all I am taking anymore. Dr. Nick returned then, his face grim from whatever conversation he had just endured. Marion caught fragments as he spoke quietly to another nurse. Colonel Parker's name, lawyers, contracts, threats of lawsuits if Elvis did not perform. The treatment continued through the early morning hours, fluids to restore balance, medications to stabilize his heart rate, careful monitoring of every vital sign, but Marion noticed something that chilled her. Dr. Nick was not following his own treatment protocols. He administered medications she had never seen him use, dosages that seemed arbitrary. As if he was guessing, experimenting, trying to find some combination that would make Elvis functional enough to satisfy whoever was making demands on that phone. At one point, Elvis grabbed Dr. Nick's wrist. George, be honest with me, how much longer? The question hung in the air like smoke from a snuffed candle. Dr. Nick could not answer. His silence said everything. That is what I thought, Elvis whispered. Red West entered once to check on them, his expression unreadable. Elvis watched him with an intensity that made Marion uncomfortable. Something passed between them, not words, but understanding. Red nodded slightly and left again. He is a good man, Elvis said after Red departed. Trying to protect me, but you cannot protect someone from themselves, can you? The profound sadness in that question made Marion's chest tighten. This was not a man destroyed by excess or carelessness. This was systematic destruction, and somehow everyone in that room knew it. As 4 in the morning approached, Elvis had stabilized enough to leave, but before they prepared his discharge, he asked Marion to sit with him, just for a moment, just to rest. I want to tell you something, he said, his voice steady despite everything, and I need someone to remember it, someone who is not on anybody's payroll, someone who does not need me to be Elvis Presley. Marion sat, her hand finding his. His skin felt cold, paper-thin, but his grip remained surprisingly strong. They think I want to die, he said. The pills, the lifestyle, all of it, they think I am choosing this, but I am not. I am trapped in a machine that needs me sick enough to control but well enough to perform, and the machine is winning. Before Marion could respond, before she could offer comfort or help or even understanding, Dr. Nick returned with discharge papers for John Burroughs. The moment shattered. Elvis became the patient again, the truth submerged beneath medical protocol. But as they wheeled him toward that private exit, Elvis turned back to look at Marion one last time. His eyes held a message she would not fully understand until the news broke 13 hours later. He knew he was never coming back. The medical charts from that night would disappear within 48 hours of Elvis's death, but Marion Koch remembered every detail they contained, and more importantly, everything they deliberately left out. She had worked Baptist Memorial's night shift for 3 years, long enough to know that when doctors stop writing things down, something dangerous is happening. Dr. Nick returned to Elvis's room at 1:47 a.m., carrying a locked medical case Marion had never seen before. His usual supplies stayed in the hospital's pharmacy, documented, tracked, accounted for. This case was different, personal, private, and heavy with the weight of desperation. "Close the door," he told Marion, though Red West already stood guard outside. "What happens next stays between us." Inside that case lay rows of unmarked vials, tablets without pharmaceutical stamps, and syringes that belonged to no hospital inventory. Elvis watched from the bed, his expression caught between relief and revulsion, like an addict seeing his fix and hatting himself for needing it. "The usual is not working anymore, is it?" Dr. Nick asked, though the question sounded rhetorical. Elvis shook his head slowly. "Nothing works anymore, Doc. We are just buying time." That phrase, buying time, would haunt Marion for decades. Not fighting for time, not stealing time. Buying it, like everything else in Elvis's world, had become a transaction. Dr. Nick prepared an injection with hands that had steadied since their arrival, muscle memory taking over where emotional stability had failed. Marion watched him draw from 3 different vials, mixing medications in combinations she had never seen in any medical textbook. The syringe filled with a cloudy solution that looked wrong, felt wrong, was wrong by every standard of medical practice she knew. "This should stabilize you until morning," Dr. Nick said, but his voice carried no conviction. Before he could administer it, Elvis grabbed his wrist. "George, I need to know something. Who called you tonight?" The question made Dr. Nick freeze. His eyes darted to the door, then back to Elvis. "You were in distress. Red called me." "Red was with me," Elvis interrupted. "He did not make any call until after we were already heading here. So who called you first? Who told you to have this room ready?" Silence stretched between them like a rope pulling tighter and tighter until Marion thought it might snap. Finally, Dr. Nick answered in barely a whisper. "Parker." Elvis released his wrist, sinking back into the pillows with an expression of profound betrayal. "He knew I would collapse tonight." "Elvis." "He knew because he planned it." The accusation hung in the air like a poison no antidote could touch. Dr. Nick did not deny it, could not deny it. Instead, he proceeded with the injection, sliding the needle into a vein with practiced precision while Elvis stared at the ceiling, tears sliding silently down his temples. Marion changed his IV bag, her movements automatic, while her mind raced to process what she was hearing. Colonel Tom Parker, Elvis's legendary manager, had somehow orchestrated a medical crisis. The thought seemed insane, yet the evidence was lying right there in that hospital bed. "You want to know what happened tonight?" Elvis asked, his voice stronger after the injection, but filled with a rage Marion had not heard before. "I told them I was done, finished. No more tour, no more Vegas, no more anything until I got healthy. Really healthy, not this propped-up zombie routine." His hands clenched into fists, the IV line pulling taut. Parker laughed, actually laughed, said I did not have a choice, said I owed him millions, owed the hotels millions, owed everyone millions. Said if I did not perform, he would take Graceland, take everything, leave Lisa Marie with nothing. Dr. Nick prepared another syringe, smaller this time, his face a mask of professional detachment hiding personal anguish. "Elvis, you need to calm down, your heart." "My heart," Elvis's laugh was bitter, broken. "My heart stopped mattering the day I signed with him. You know what he said next, George? He said he had insurance policies on me, multiple policies, said I was worth more dead than alive if I would not perform." Marion's blood went cold. She looked at Dr. Nick, expecting him to deny this, to offer some reassurance. Instead, he focused intently on preparing medications, avoiding everyone's eyes. "Then," Elvis continued, his voice dropping to almost a whisper, "Lamar came in with my evening medications, the usual handful, except they were not the usual, were they, Joe?" Dr. Nick's hands stilled. "Different colors, different sizes. Lamar said you had adjusted the prescription, but you had not, had you?" The silence that followed was deafening. Marion understood now why this visit was off the books, why Dr. Nick had brought his private medical case, why everything about this night felt like a crime scene before the crime. "I took them," Elvis said, each word heavy with self-loathing. "Like I always do, like a good little money machine, 20 minutes later, my chest felt like it was exploding, could not breathe, could not stand. Red found me on the bathroom floor. He turned his head to look directly at Dr. Nick. Someone is changing my medications, George. Someone with access, someone I trust, and you know who it is. Dr. Nick finally met his gaze, and in that moment, Marion saw something she never expected from the confident physician: fear. Elvis, even if that is true, we cannot prove. I do not need proof, Elvis's voice cracked with desperation. I need help. I need someone to stop this before. He could not finish the sentence, did not need to. Everyone in that room knew how it would end. The phone on the bedside table rang, startling them all. Red West's voice came through the door immediately. That will be Parker. He has been calling every 15 minutes. Elvis stared at the phone like it was a loaded gun. Do not answer it. But Dr. Nick was already reaching for it, compelled by some invisible force Marion could not understand. She watched him pick up the receiver, watched his face change as he listened to whatever venom Parker was spewing from wherever he was orchestrating this nightmare. Yes, sir, he is stable. Yes, he will be ready. Yes, I understand. Each agreement was another nail in a coffin that had not been built yet. When Dr. Nick hung up, Elvis asked quietly, Portland. You have 3 days to recover. He has already adjusted the medication schedule to ensure I can stumble through it like a performing corpse. Nobody corrected him. Marion checked his vitals again, noting the irregular patterns that no amount of medication seemed to fully correct. His body was not just failing, it was being pushed to fail in carefully controlled increments. Functional enough to perform, damaged enough to require constant medical supervision, dependent enough to never break free. There is something else, Elvis said suddenly, his eyes finding Marion's. That new prescription Lamar brought, it was not the first time, been happening for weeks. Different pills mixed in with my regular ones. Sometimes they make me feel invincible. Sometimes they make me feel like I am drowning in my own body. He reached out and grabbed Marion's hand with surprising strength. You are a nurse. You understand medications. Tell me, what happens when someone randomly changes your prescriptions without medical supervision? Marion's throat tightened. She knew the answer. They all knew the answer. Your body stops being able to regulate itself, she said quietly. Your tolerance becomes unpredictable. Interactions become dangerous. Eventually, you take what you think is safe, and it kills you, Elvis finished. The truth sat heavy in the room, unavoidable and terrifying. But who would do that? Marion asked, though even as the words left her mouth, she began to understand. Elvis's eyes moved to the door where Red West stood guard. Someone who needs me just sick enough to control. Someone who profits whether I live or die, but profits more if it looks like my own fault. Dr. Nick was preparing another injection, his movements robotic, disconnected. We should focus on stabilizing you for now. Accusations will not. George, Elvis's voice cut through the deflection. How much is he paying you? The question landed like a physical blow. Dr. Nick's hands froze mid-preparation. For a moment, Marion thought he might deny it, might protest, might explain. Instead, his shoulders sagged with the weight of a guilt he could no longer carry. It was never about money, he whispered. He said, if I did not help manage your condition his way, he would have you declared incompetent, said he would have you institutionalized, said he would make sure you never saw Lisa Marie again. Elvis closed his eyes, and for the first time that night, he looked truly defeated. Not by illness, not by addiction, but by the systematic betrayal of everyone he had trusted to protect him. So you chose to kill me slowly instead. I chose to keep you as safe as I could within an impossible situation. Safe, Elvis's eyes snapped open, filled with a fury that seemed to give him strength. I am dying, George, we all know it. We are just arguing about the timeline. He struggled to sit up, his body shaking with effort and emotion. Tomorrow, when I leave here, someone is going to give me something that looks like my normal medication but is not. and I am going to take it because I have no choice, because if I do not, Parker destroys everything I love." His voice dropped to almost nothing, and one day soon, probably sooner than any of us think, that something is going to be too much, and everyone will shake their heads and say it was inevitable, that I did it to myself, that I was always heading for this end. He looked directly at Marion then, his eyes holding a clarity that belonged to a man who had accepted his fate but refused to go quietly. "But you will know the truth. You will know I was murdered by the people who claimed to love me most." At 2:58 a.m., Elvis asked Marion to dim the lights, not because he wanted to sleep. Sleep had become impossible weeks ago, but because he needed the darkness to say what came next. Dr. Nick had stepped out again, another phone call pulling him away, leaving Marion alone with a man preparing to confess something that had been eating him alive. "I held Lisa Marie yesterday," he began, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. "Held her longer than usual. She asked why I was squeezing so tight, could not tell her daddy knows things, knows how this story ends." Marion pulled her chair closer, sensing this was not just rambling but testimony, something that needed to be witnessed. "She has her mama's eyes but my spirit," Elvis continued. "Stubborn, fierce, going to grow up fighting for everything she believes in. I wanted to see that, wanted to walk her down the aisle someday, wanted to hold grandchildren." His voice cracked. "But they have already decided that will not happen." "Who decided?" Marion asked gently, though she already suspected the answer. Elvis turned his head toward her, and in the dim light, she could see tears streaming down his face. "You ever wonder why Mama died so young? Gladys Love Presley, strongest woman who ever lived, dead at 46. Heart failure, they said, natural causes." His laugh was bitter, hollow, nothing natural about what killed her. "She saw what I was becoming, saw what they were turning me into. The pills they gave her for her nerves, for her drinking, for her sadness, same person supplying them who started supplying me." Marion felt her blood chill. "Are you saying someone?" "I am saying patterns repeat. Mama knew too much, asked too many questions, tried too hard to protect me, so they helped her into an early grave, made it look like her own weakness killed her." His fists clenched. "And now they are doing the same to me." The door opened slightly, Red West checking in without entering. Elvis waited until it closed again before continuing. "That man out there, Red, he has been trying to save me, slipping me different pills, trying to counteract what the others are giving me, but he cannot keep up, cannot know which ones are poisoned and which ones are real." Elvis's voice dropped to barely a whisper. "Tomorrow, when I go home, there will be new prescriptions waiting, already arranged, already paid for, already decided." Marion leaned forward. "Then we tell someone, the police, the FBI, someone who can." "Tell them what? That Elvis Presley thinks his manager is trying to kill him, that the Memphis Mafia is split between those trying to save me and those ensuring I die on schedule." He shook his head slowly. "They would say I am paranoid, delusional, prove Parker right about me being incompetent." His eyes fixed on the ceiling, but Marion could tell he was seeing beyond it, maybe seeing his mother, maybe seeing his own future. "I know what is going to happen," he said, each word deliberate and clear. "Tomorrow, today actually, since it is already morning, I will go home. Ginger will be there, beautiful and young, and completely unaware she is dating a dead man. The boys will act normal, joke around, pretend everything is fine. And someone, probably Lamar or maybe Joe, will hand me an envelope with my adjusted medications." Marion watched his face contort with a pain that had nothing to do with physical symptoms. "The pills will be different, stronger, mixed wrong, deadly wrong. Dr. Nick will not know because they will not tell him until after. Parker needs plausible deniability, needs the good doctor to be genuinely shocked when the call comes." "How can you be sure?" Marion asked, though the certainty in his voice was answer enough. Elvis reached for the water glass on his bedside table, his hand shaking so badly Marion had to help him. After a small sip, he continued. "Because I heard Parker on the phone yesterday, did not mean to, was walking past his office at Graceland. He was talking to someone about insurance policies, about timelines, about how August would be perfect because the tour were insured, but not yet started. The weight of that revelation pressed down on the room like a physical force. He said, and I will never forget these exact words, "Make sure the combination is right this time. We cannot have another close call like tonight." Elvis's eyes found Marion's. "Tonight," he said, "tonight. This was yesterday afternoon. He knew I would collapse, knew exactly when and how." Marion felt nausea rising in her throat, but surely someone else heard. Everyone hears what they need to hear to keep their paychecks coming. Some genuinely do not know, others know but pretend not to, and a select few, he paused, gathering strength. A select few are active participants in the slowest, most public murder in history. Dr. Nick returned then, his face ashen from whatever conversation he had just endured. Behind him came another figure, someone Marion did not recognize, carrying a medical bag similar to Dr. Nick's private case. "This is Dr. Tennant," Dr. Nick said quietly. "He is here to provide a second opinion on your medications going forward." Elvis studied the new doctor with eyes that had seen too many betrayals. "Parker sent you." It was not a question. Dr. Tennant nodded, his expression professionally neutral but his eyes cold. "I am here to ensure your upcoming performances go smoothly." Smoothly, Elvis repeated the word like it tasted of poison. That is one way to describe it. What happened next would be burned into Marion's memory forever. Dr. Tennant opened his bag and pulled out a collection of pill bottles, each labeled with typed instructions but no pharmaceutical information. He arranged them on the bedside table like a dealer showing his wares. "These are your new prescriptions," he said. "They will ensure you have the energy needed for Portland." Elvis picked up one of the bottles, studying it with the resignation of a condemned man examining his noose. "And if I refuse?" Dr. Tennant's expression did not change. Mr. Parker was quite clear. "Either you take them voluntarily, or we declare you mentally incompetent due to drug-induced paranoia and administer them under medical supervision." The trap was perfect, elegant in its cruelty. Elvis set the bottle down gently, then looked at Marion with an expression that broke her heart. "You are my witness, remember that. Whatever happens next, you saw this, you heard this." He turned to Dr. Nick. "George, I want you to know something. Despite everything, I do not hate you. You are as trapped as I am. But when this is over, and we both know it will be over soon, I need you to tell Lisa Marie the truth. Not the public truth, the real truth." Dr. Nick could not meet his eyes. "Elvis, please. Promise me, George. Promise me she will know her daddy fought to stay with her." The silence stretched until finally, Dr. Nick nodded, the gesture barely visible. Elvis then did something that stunned everyone in the room. He laughed. Not bitter this time, but genuinely amused by some cosmic irony only he could see. "You know what the funny part is? All those years, singing about heartbreak, about loss, about loneliness, I was practicing for this moment, preparing the world for a tragedy they would mourn but never understand." He reached out suddenly, grabbing Marion's wrist with both hands, his grip desperate. "I need you to remember something else. The pills they are going to give me, the ones that will kill me, they are already in production, already tested on someone else to make sure the dosage is right. There is a man in Mississippi, a session musician who worked with me in the 60s. He died last month. Heart failure, they said. Same symptoms I am having, same medications in his system." Marion's mind raced. What was his name? "Charlie Hodge will know. Ask him about Tommy Sutton. Ask him why Tommy was taking medications prescribed to me." Elvis's grip tightened. "They tested my death on him first." Dr. Tennant interrupted, impatient. "Mr. Presley, we need to finalize your treatment plan." Elvis released Marion's wrist, his energy suddenly depleted. "It is already finalized, is it not? Has been for months." He looked around the room at each person present. Dr. Nick avoiding his gaze, Dr. Tennant cold and efficient, Red West hovering in the doorway torn between loyalty and survival, and Marion, the only one there without agenda or obligation. "I want everyone to remember this moment," Elvis said, his voice carrying the authority of a man making his last statement. I am not suicidal. I am not trying to die. I want to live. I want to see my daughter grow up. I want to get better." His voice rose slightly, gaining strength from somewhere deep inside. "But in a few hours, I am going to take medications I know are dangerous because the alternative is losing everything I have left to protect. And sometime very soon, probably within the next 24 hours, those medications are going to kill me." He looked directly at Dr. Tennant. "And you already know exactly which dose will do it, do you not?" Dr. Tennant's expression never changed, but Marion saw something flicker in his eyes, not guilt, but confirmation. Elvis sank back into his pillows, exhausted by truth-telling. "When it happens," he said quietly, "they will say I did it to myself, that it was always going to end this way, that I was weak, self-destructive, doomed." He closed his eyes. "But you all know better. You all know this is murder disguised as inevitability." He opened his eyes one last time, finding Marion's face in the dim light. "Tell them I tried to stay," he whispered. "Tell them it was not my choice." Marion Koch left Baptist Memorial Hospital at 5:14 a.m. on August 16, 1977, watching Elvis being helped into an unmarked car through her rearview mirror. His last words to her echoed like a prophecy she was powerless to prevent. "Remember everything." By 3:30 that afternoon, the world would learn that Elvis Presley was dead, found unconscious on his bathroom floor at Graceland, rushed to the very same hospital where hours earlier he had predicted his own murder. She heard the news on her car radio driving to work for her next shift. The announcer's voice cracked with emotion as he delivered the bulletin that would stop the world. Marion pulled over, her hands shaking so violently she could not maintain control of the wheel. Everything Elvis had said, every warning he had given, every detail he had begged her to remember, it had all come true exactly as he described. The official story emerged within hours, polished and perfect like a press release written in advance. Elvis had been found by girlfriend Ginger Alden around 2 p.m. Attempts to revive him had failed. Cause of death, cardiac arrhythmia. The medical examiner mentioned prescription medications, but emphasized this was not an overdose. Natural causes, they insisted, a weak heart finally giving out. Marion knew better. She had seen his medical charts that night. His heart was damaged, but not failing. The medications in his system were wrong, but deliberately wrong. Someone had calculated exactly what combination would kill him while appearing accidental. When she arrived at the hospital that evening, chaos reigned. Reporters everywhere, fans sobbing in the parking lot, security guards at every entrance, but in the staff areas, a different energy prevailed, nervous silence. The kind that comes when everyone knows something, but no one dares speak it. Her supervisor pulled her aside immediately. "There are some gentlemen here who need to speak with you about last night." Two men in dark suits waited in an empty office. Not police, not reporters. Their credentials identified them as hospital administrators, but Marion had worked there long enough to know every administrator, and these men were strangers. "Miss Koch," the taller one began, his voice carrying an authority that had nothing to do with healthcare. "We understand you worked a shift last night that involved a patient named John Burroughs." Marion nodded, saying nothing. "That patient visit was part of an ongoing confidential medical trial. Any records, notes, or memories you have of that visit are protected under federal privacy laws." He slid a document across the desk. "This is a standard confidentiality agreement. Sign it, and your job continues as normal. Refuse, and we will be forced to review your entire employment history for potential violations." The threat was clear: sign or be destroyed. Marion signed, but she had already decided that some promises were made to be broken when the truth mattered more than personal safety. For 6 months, she stayed quiet, watching as the official narrative solidified. Dr. Nick became the villain, charged with overprescribing medications, eventually losing his medical license. Colonel Parker sold his rights to Elvis's estate and fled to Las Vegas. The Memphis Mafia scattered, some writing tell-all books that told everything except the truth. But Marion investigated quietly: library visits, public records, death certificates. She found Tommy Sutton, the session musician Elvis had mentioned. Died July 3, 1977, 6 weeks before Elvis. Same cause, cardiac arrhythmia. Same medications in his system according to the toxicology report she convinced a friend in the coroner's office to share. Tommy had no history of heart problems, no prescription for the medications that killed him, but he had been close to Elvis in the 60s, same height, similar weight. The perfect test subject for calculating a lethal dose. She found 3 more suspicious deaths over the following years, all men connected to Elvis's inner circle who had shown signs of talking. All died from prescription complications. All had life insurance policies that paid out to anonymous corporations traced back to Las Vegas. The pattern was clear to anyone willing to look, but nobody wanted to look. Elvis was more valuable as a tragic legend than as a murder victim. In 1987, 10 years after his death, Marion received an unexpected visitor. Red West appeared at her door, aged beyond his years, carrying a burden that had clearly been destroying him slowly. "You were there that night," he said without preamble, "the last night at the hospital." Marion invited him in, knowing this conversation had been coming for a decade. Red sat in her living room, staring at his hands like they carried bloodstains only he could see. "I tried to save him, need you to know that, tried to switch his pills when I could, tried to dilute doses, but there were too many people involved, too many hands in the pot." His confession poured out over 3 hours. Names Marion had suspected, details she had guessed. Colonel Parker had orchestrated everything, but he had not acted alone. Key members of the Memphis Mafia had been bought or blackmailed into cooperation. The insurance policies were real, 7 different policies totaling over $30 million, all purchased in the 18 months before Elvis died. Parker knew Elvis was planning to fire him, Red explained. Elvis had been talking to other managers, consulting lawyers. The Colonel's gambling debts were mounting. He needed Elvis dead before the truth came out, that Parker was an illegal immigrant, that he had been stealing millions, that he could not leave the country for international tour because he had no passport. Red pulled out a manila envelope, weathered and worn from years of hiding. "Elvis gave this to me the morning he died, told me to keep it safe, but never said what to do with it." Inside was a handwritten letter in Elvis's distinctive scrawl, dated August 16, 1977, the day of his death. Marion read it with tears streaming down her face. "To whoever finds this after I am gone, and I will be gone soon, know that I did not choose this ending. They have been poisoning me slowly for 2 years, increasing doses, mixing medications, creating dependencies I cannot break. Colonel Parker, with help from people I trusted, has decided I am worth more dead than alive. The pills waiting for me at home today will be my last. I know this because I heard them discussing it. I take them anyway because the alternative is losing everything my daughter might inherit. Tell Lisa Marie I fought to stay with her. Tell her every day was a battle to wake up one more time. Tell her daddy loved her more than life itself, which is why I am letting them take mine. EPB." Red broke down sobbing. "I should have stopped him from going home, should have taken him somewhere safe. But where was safe? Parker owned everyone." Marion held the letter, understanding she now possessed evidence of the century's most hidden murder. But evidence was not justice. Too many powerful people had too much to lose if the truth emerged. She made copies, sent them to safety deposit boxes in different states, created a paper trail that could not be destroyed by any single fire or threat. Then she waited for the right moment to reveal the truth. That moment never came. Every time she tried, something stopped her. A threatening phone call, a near-miss car accident, a clear message that Colonel Parker's reach extended beyond his death in 1997. Years passed, decades. The legend of Elvis grew larger while the truth grew quieter. Marion aged, retired, moved to a small house in Arkansas where she thought she could disappear. But the weight of what she knew never left her. In 2017, dying of cancer with 6 months to live according to her doctors, Marion decided she had nothing left to lose. Her granddaughter's question about why she kept crying triggered the final confession. The envelope Elvis had given Red, which Red had given to her, could not stay sealed any longer. She opened it with shaking hands, finding not just the suicide note, murder confession, really, but something else. A photograph of Lisa Marie at age 9, smiling with a gap-toothed grin. On the back, in Elvis's handwriting, "This is why I let them win. Her future mattered more than my life." Marion understood then what Elvis had tried to tell her that night. Love sometimes means accepting defeat. Protection sometimes requires sacrifice. And truth sometimes has to wait decades for the world to be ready to hear it. She began recording everything. Names, dates, details, 17 hours of testimony delivered to a camera her granddaughter operated. The full truth of Elvis Presley's murder, told by the last person alive who witnessed his final prediction. 3 members of Elvis's inner circle had become mysteriously wealthy after his death, exactly as she had suspected. Property transfers that made no sense. Business deals dated before his death, as if they knew it was coming. Insurance policies paid to shell companies that disappeared into offshore accounts. The murder was not just planned, it was commercialized. Elvis Presley's death was a business transaction executed with the same cold precision as any corporate merger. Marion passed away 6 months later, taking some names and details to her grave as promised. But she left enough truth behind to shatter the myth of Elvis's tragic but inevitable demise. Her recordings wait in a safety deposit box, with instructions to release them when the last of the conspirators dies. That day is coming soon. Perhaps it has already arrived as you hear these words. Elvis whispered his truth to a young nurse 40 years before the world was ready to hear it. Marion carried that burden until cancer gave her permission to speak. How many others knew but stayed silent? How many chose comfort over truth? And the hardest question of all, if Elvis was murdered as Marion claimed, who else in Hollywood met the same calculated end? Share your thoughts below and subscribe for more untold stories that challenge everything we thought we knew.